This is a historic day for the city of New Orleans. I want to welcome Michelle Craig, who is a Civil Service Commission member. Ron, thank you so much for being here as well. Latoya Cantrell and James Gray will be with us in just a minute. Charles West is the director of our Innovation Delivery Team. Nadia Coleman, the director of Job One. Sharif Cousin is a community service provider and an advocate. Rod Miller, as you know, is the CEO of our New Orleans Business Alliance. Michael Smith is the general manager of the Hyatt and will be with us briefly, and other business and community leaders. We have spent a lot of time in the last 4 years creating jobs. It has been one of our number one priorities because we think that along with education and jobs, you solve the overarching problem of crime in the city. You know, we have an overarching theme called NOLA for Life, which is designed to change the culture of violence in the city of New Orleans. We have successfully created 4,500 jobs in the last 3.5 years. You all have heard and seen the list from GE's jobs that are in excess of six-figure salaries. You know that we have Walmart's gone up in the Eastern Gentilly. Costco has opened up. We're having a retail boom, and the people of New Orleans are getting back to work. But one of the most pressing issues facing the city is the fact that we can't leave anybody behind. And we have, with our NOLA for Life initiative, focused on our young black men and boys. The incarceration rate of young men, black and boys is unnatural and it's unacceptable. One of the things that happens is when they leave incarceration, they are not able to access employment. If they are not able to access employment, the recidivism rate in the first 2-3 years is 42%, and then after 5 years is 48%. So it is everybody's best interest to make sure that as young men come out of prison and incarceration, that there is a pathway to education, to job training, and to prosperity. In New Orleans, 1 in 7 African-American men or boys are in prison or on parole and probation, and therefore we must together address that issue. I asked the City of New Orleans, through the Civil Service Commission, to take the lead for not only government, but to give an incentive to the private sector as well. As a matter of fact, when Ken Polite gave his inaugural address as the new U.S. Attorney in New Orleans, he spoke to this issue as well, and the need to make sure that when these men come out and serve their time, that we, both in government and the private sector, do everything we can to make sure that they have job training and access. One of the great obstacles is, of course, when you sign up for a job, before you even get an interview, you have to note that you are a convicted felon. One of the things that has happened across the country in 50 other cities already is they've experimented with and found a new way that's called ban the box, which prohibits you from asking about that before the initial interview. After the initial interview is had, should that individual on his own merit show the people that he is in fact qualified for the job and the job is accepted, we then do the background check. But what many young men have told us is the fact that that box exists is a disincentive for them even to show up. And so the City of New Orleans wanted to lead the way. Creating this new path requires commitment, it requires partnership, and requires opportunities. NOLA for Life's number one priority, as I said, is changing the culture of violence. We have seen some very early signs of progress through these partnerships. Right now, we are working with the Department of Justice with over $600,000 in grant monies that actually fund training at Angola and the OPP to result in certifications for high-demand technology, jobs, and opportunities. They're being trained as we speak. We also have great local support and partnerships with criminal justice agencies, workforce development, community organizations, and social service providers to provide for these young men second chances. We won't and we cannot leave anybody behind in the city. We must be one city. We must be one team. We must be one fight, as you have heard me say many, many times. So on this historic day, I particularly want to thank Father Kevin Wilds and the members of the Civil Service Commission who will come up and speak in just a minute for taking the lead in the city of New Orleans and making sure that we don't just talk the talk, but we walk the walk as well. We are here to eliminate as many obstacles as we possibly can. It's also important to note that we will continue to have appropriate safeguards in place to assure that candidates are judged on their skills and their merit. Should someone be selected for a job before they are hired, all candidates will receive background checks. I will say this, we cannot do it alone. This is the city taking the first step. I am encouraging every business leader in the city to consider this method that we're using because it is tried and true across America. to make sure that we put everybody in the city back to work and we keep the city safe again. So I want to thank, again, the Civil Service Commission, all the government leaders, our city council members who have supported this. I understand that the Civil Service Commission voted 7-0 for this just some time ago, led by their chairman, Father Kevin Wilds, and the members that are with us today. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it. And please let me call up Ms. Michelle Craig, who's a Commissioner of Civil Service Commission, to speak on their behalf. Thank you. Michelle.
Today, the Civil Service Commission voted to remove the questions related to felony convictions from the city employee application. This vote follows the national trend. It should provide a new avenue of employment for many of this city's citizens. This marks another avenue of progress for the city, and we are excited that it has occurred.
Ron, you want to
Yeah, I'm just very, very excited to be a part of this historic shift in policy on the part of the city that will allow a lot more people to have opportunities for meaningful employment, particularly those ex-offenders. And my hope is, and I'm very optimistic, that more employers will follow suit.
Thank you. James?
I'm very happy with this action. I thank the mayor for his leadership on this action. Those of you who've watched the city council meetings may know that I've become almost a one-trick pony talking about the fact that we need to do better by our young men who have been stigmatized by convictions, who are great young people who can contribute to society. We're a booming city, and we need to see to it that all of our people can boom, and we can't continue to boom unless everyone has a fair opportunity to contribute to that boom. I walked in a little late because we're talking about another part of this issue downstairs in the city council chambers. Change is coming, and it's great that we have the leadership to push us in the right direction, and we're going to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Mr. Charles West, the Director of Innovation Delivery Teams.
As Mayor Landrieu mentioned, NOLA for Life is our comprehensive strategy for reducing violence and really investing in the lives of young black men and boys in New Orleans. And so this workforce reentry strategy is a component of that, is a very important component of that. It helps to end this cycle of incarceration. It provides different avenues and alternatives for young men as they come out of prison. It's really about building a pathway, building an entire system that coordinates and works together to ensure that ex-offenders, as they're coming out of detention, have opportunities for service, for training. And so we have worked very closely with Job One, the Mayor's Office of Workforce Development, to ensure that this pathway exists.
Thank you, Charles. Nadia Coleman, who's the Director of Job One.
Thank you. This is a very, very exciting day. As Charles mentioned, we have been working cooperatively to look at ways that we can help reduce or eliminate barriers for all of our citizens. And one of our huge groups of citizens that has traditionally been left out will be our returning citizens. And we know that this makes up a large portion of our workforce. And it means that we have to encourage and also support returning citizens to have entry and access to jobs that are in their local community. This supports not only the individual, their families, but also our economy as a whole. And so as we move forward in New Orleans, we want to make certain that we explore all opportunities to support everyone who resides here in this city, regardless of whether or not they have existing barriers to employment, and give them the support that they need to get on track.
Thank you very much. Sharif, introduce yourself.
I am Sharif Kuzan, and as many of you know that I am the 77th person in this country to have been exonerated from death row. This is definitely a wonderful opportunity because we see so many young men that are incarcerated that get the training. You get certified in welding, or you get certified in auto mechanic, or you get certifications, and when you come home you can't use them because of your conviction. So this is a great opportunity in moving forward in what real reentry looks like, because this is an opportunity not just for returning citizens but for their families. Because we know that economics and just having a livable wage brings families together. So this is an opportunity for families to really just be together. So this is a wonderful opportunity, and I just want to say that as a city, now we're moving forward as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharif. Mr. Rod Miller, who is the CEO of New Orleans Business Alliance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. New Orleans is a great American city. We've had the largest strides in the country in the past few years in terms of population growth, economic recovery, and talent from the recession even until today. About 6 months ago, we outlined a program called Prosperity NOLA, a 5-year, 7-point plan for strengthening and diversifying the economy. And it really uncovers some of the harsh realities related to equity in our community, including the largest income gap between blacks and whites in the country, and that 1 in 2 working age black men in the city are not working. This is going to go a long way in terms of fixing that. Key to our long-term prosperity is really in getting men into jobs. Louisiana has the highest incarceration rate in the world, and black men are disproportionately incarcerated. So this ban represents a tremendous opportunity at a second chance for these formerly incarcerated people. And collectively, this is a step in the right direction for our community in terms of jobs and long-term economic growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. Mr. Michael Smith, the General Manager from the Great Hyatt
Thank you.
Regency.
Oh, well, thank you. I would tell you that NOLA for Life is fundamentally a master plan. And when I say that is that it gives us the pillars that it takes to build New Orleans from the ground up. A real life story is about a month ago, I hired a kid that has just spent 13 months in Angola. We were having this dialogue and this conversation. It was being full disclosure. And he felt that, he needed a last chance. I said, well, it's a second chance and it's a last chance. Now, traditionally, when we give these kids these opportunities, we're supposed to run a background check, and we have to be prudent, and we have corporate rules and regulations to follow. But this is a situation that we have to take people over the policy. All right? So when I spoke with this gentleman, I made him sign a contract that he's going to engage with me. Because if I look at NOLA for Life, it's a call to action. It's a call to action for the hospitality industry and for everybody all in. Because if you go out and you give this guy a chance, and I've done this on several occasions, I know that everybody's not going to make it, but for that 1 or 2 or 3 guys that do, it's a big, big, big impact, especially in a city like New Orleans. So NOLA for Life, I'm all in, but when I look at it, it's a call for action, and I thank the mayor for putting this plan together.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Many of you remember when I was Lieutenant Governor, I was working with a lot of people to talk about juvenile justice reform. And the idea then was you can always be tough on crime, but you have to be smart too. And what has happened over a number of years is as there's been convergence of liberals and conservatives, Republicans and Democrats that have come together to understand that mass incarceration is not smart on crime. One of the things we see in the city of New Orleans is that in order to make it safe, we have to stop young men who have come out of prison from going back to prison. And there are obstacles in the way right now that prohibit that from happening. And so what NOLA for Life is all about is creating a pathway to prosperity, and not just thematically, a specific place for them to walk, to meet, and then to find, as Michael said, an opportunity. This does not get rid of background checks. Michael said that corporations and city governments have protections in place, but we do want to make sure people feel welcome. We want to give them an opportunity to apply. We want to make sure that they are welcome before they even get here, to know that if they stand on their own merit, they change their life. If they want to do the work that's required of them, just like anybody else, there is going to be a pathway to earning a job, making a living, and as Sharif said, bringing families back together, because that, at the end of the day, is going to make New Orleans strong. And so, Michael, you're absolutely correct. This is a call to action, and it is the city leading by example. We will not leave anybody behind in this city. That is what the future is going to be about. And I just want to tell you how much I thank all of you for having the courage to stand with me and to think about what this new progressive policy is going to do for the safety and the peace of the citizens in the city of New Orleans. So thank you all very much. And I'll be happy to take some questions on this topic. If we have pull-asides about other topics, I'll be happy to do that as well. Yes?
So how many potential jobs does this impact the Band of Fox? I mean, like, how many people does this employ, sort of the scope of all this?
We have about 4,300 employees in the city of New Orleans. And so on a daily basis, jobs become available. That is, in fact, what civil service does, job classifications, et cetera, et cetera. Every time there is a job opening, that classification and that job is posted. People can apply to that. But right now on the job application, there's a big box that says, you know, have you been convicted of a felon? And that has been proven to be a real disincentive for folks even to come forward. So the young man doesn't even get a chance. Now what we're saying is you don't have to put that down anymore. That question won't be asked unless and until, you know, based on your own merit and your qualifications, you're offered the job. And then you obviously have to answer that question, and appropriate background checks have to be fulfilled.
There are a few jobs, police officer, for instance, where a felony conviction would have to lead to a
Sure. Yeah, that's not going to change. I think there are some jobs that everybody understands that folks with felony convictions for lots of different reasons can't serve, but the majority of them you should be able to. As a matter of fact, this morning on the way to work, I ran into a young man that was actually doing carpentry work, and we got to talking a little bit. He had been incarcerated for a number of years in his life, but had gotten out, and he was actually working rebuilding houses. That is a great example of how you have to make sure the jobs are available, because he looked wonderful. He was in good health. He was doing a great job. He was obviously skilled. And if he's working, he's making a living, he's supporting a family, he's paying taxes, and he's living a life that everybody wants for him and for us. And so we want to be able to change the culture. Again, changing the culture of violence in the city of New Orleans, all right, requires everybody to change what they're doing, not just the bad guys that are committing the crimes. It requires all of us to refocus our attention and to be able to separate people based on behavior as opposed to other things, and to be open to that. But right now in America, and especially in New Orleans, once you have a felony conviction, irrespective of the severity of it and the length of time, that gets to be basically an economic death sentence. And so what you're doing then is only giving them one alternative, which is to go back out and commit a crime. We're trying to change that trajectory, and we believe that we are smart enough and tough enough to figure out, right, when that is possible. And so we're asking everybody to reach out and to think about it, and particularly businesses in the community to begin to think about it, just like we ask for summer job programs. And as Michael said, this is a call to action, and he represents the private sector. He represents a large part of the private sector with the tourism industry, where there are 80,000 jobs. So there are great opportunities. And for those of you who want to know whether this works or not, just go look at Cafe Reconcile. Those young men and women that are in there have been in very difficult circumstances, have in some instances committed crimes, have in some instances being the victim of very serious crimes, but they are moving into leadership positions right now in the hospitality industry because you gave them an opportunity, you gave them a pathway, you gave them training, you gave them a chance. Now, Michael said sometimes it doesn't work out, but in many instances it does, and if we can save just one child, we think this will.